Hello everybody, my name is Kathy Jarvis and welcome to my channel. And today I am again dressed in older clothes because we are going to harvest and prepare the beets. Now if you don't know about beets, they can be quite messy and they can stain your clothes. So I usually wear older clothes when I'm working with the beets. So let's get into the greenhouse and get busy. As you can see, the tomato plants are going crazy. Lots of little blooms on there. Now this one is the red currant, and they are the smallest tomatoes that they have. On the other end I have my beefsteaks, which are some of the larger ones. But we're not here today for that. We're here today for the beets. Now we're going to harvest all these today, and which is June 30th. And then in July, I will put some more fertilizer into this bed, work it down a little bit, and then plant a second wave of beets, which will be ready in September. Right now, we're just going to put you down here, and I'll start harvesting the beets. Some of them are big, some of them are small. But we're going to get them all out. Try to get as much dirt off of them as you can. You don't want to waste your dirt. Leave as much of it as you can into the... Some of these are small. I got two separate types in here. I got Bow's Blood and these are Detroit Supreme Red. And these are the Bow's Blood. Never done this Detroit Reds before. I've always done Bow's Blood before. So we'll see how, we'll compare them and we'll see how we like them. Remember, the tops of these can be cleaned and eaten and frozen as well. And the ones in the back were Detroit Dark Reds. So we got 3 different varieties here to work with. Give this poor kale a little room to grow now. there is the empty bed, ready to be fixed up. I got some Swiss chard there and some kale growing. And there is my harvest of beets and beet greens. So let's take those to the house and start preserving them. Well, we've got our beets in the kitchen, ready to start processing them in the freezer. And we're going to get started. First thing I do is clean all the counters and clean the sink up really good. Now there are a few ways that you can preserve your beets. You can either fix them in the microwave, you can roast them, you can boil them in water, or you can just cut them up raw. All these are ways that you can use to freeze them. And we're going to do a little bit of everything, I think, today. I've not tried anything but the boiled ones before. I've never done the microwave. I've roasted them before, but not to preserve them. And I've never tried them raw. And we've got quite a few here, so we're going to get started. And the first thing you have to do with any of the vegetables is to clean them well. So we're going to clean the beets with water and get them ready to go. Now, one thing to remember is that these leaves are good to eat also. So you don't want to throw all of them away. Keep some of them and you can freeze them as well. So we'll start with some of these. Just basically wash the dirt off of them. Now, beets have a way of bleeding, which means that they release their coloring as they cook. So you do not want to cut the tails off. You do not want to cut the tails off, and you do not want to cut them up close here. You cut about an inch, leave about an inch of the stalk, and this is what you're going to be working with to cook and to microwave or even roast. So we're going to clean these first. Scrub them good. Now I've cleaned the sinks beforehand so I can just pop these into the other side of the sink. Do that with all your beets. So I'll finish doing that and then we'll be back and show you the next step. Okay, after you have them washed, what you need to do is separate them as far as size, because you want to have them about uniform in size so they cook uniformly and evenly. So you have your bigger ones, your medium-sized ones, your small ones, and then your real small ones. And then I've got the pile of the leaves that I'm decided to keep. Now, I don't keep all my leaves. If my leaves show any sign of age, I like the smaller ones best to eat. So I just kept some of the smaller ones. We don't use them that much, but I do like to have them to put into soups and stuff. So we're just going to freeze those. So, first thing we're going to do is prepare for the water for the boiling. Just basically get some water, have it come to a boil, and then once it starts boiling, we will just drop these in as they are. I'm going to use the larger ones for the boiling water. It'll take about an hour to boil them cooking in that water. And then the next smaller ones, I'm going to use the roasting method. We set the oven to 350. We've got the pan out. We'll add some olive oil to them, coat them with some olive oil and a little bit of salt, and we'll stick them in the oven at 350 for about 15 minutes to see, and then we'll start checking them from there. And then we're going to try the microwave also. So we're just waiting for the water to boil. Okay, we're getting ready to do the roasted beets. Now you can either peel them ahead of time, or you can roast them and then peel them. What I do is I cut off the ends and the top part here. They will bleed a little bit, but they're not like they're going to be in the water and bleed like really bad. Like I said, you could peel them if you want. It's not that difficult. But it's just so much easier to do it after. But this is basically how you can peel them if you want to do it ahead of time. Depends a lot on the size of the beet as far as how easy it is to peel. That's why I peeled one what it looked like, and here's an unpeeled. As you can see, they do peel quite easily. You can do that to all your beets. I'm going to go ahead and peel this one since I've got all the other ones peeled. Okay. Once you peel them all, you just take a little olive oil, sprinkle that on, and coat them. And stick them in the oven for 15 to 30 minutes and then check them. So we'll get the rest of these done. The water's still boiling for the next one, and we'll come back and see you then. One good thing about roasting these is if you have different sizes, you can cut these any size that you want at this point to make them all more uniform so they roast about the same. Remember when I said that they bleed? See the redness on my fingers? So if you don't want red fingers for a while, you can wear food safe latex gloves, and that will protect your fingers from turning red. they're a little bit more uniform in size, so we'll stick them in the oven and leave them cook, or bake, or roast. Set your timer for 15 minutes and then check them. Okay, you leave those in for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes. You do them just to be, just not all the way done, just so you can prick them with a fork, and that's it. And then you take them and leave them cool for a little bit, and then put the whole baking sheet after it's cooled into the freezer. Leave it freeze in a single layer. And then after they're frozen, then you put them into your freezing containers. I use a vacuum sealer, and these should be good for 6 months to a year. When you want to take them out to use them, you can just reheat them in the oven. Put some seasoning on them and put them in the oven for about 20 minutes. Or you can put them in the microwave in a covered dish for 5 minutes, and then they're ready to eat. So that's how you can, one way you can do beets to preserve them. So now we'll go on to the second method. Okay, the next way we're going to do is in the microwave. And again, you take your beet, take the ends off of it, peel it, just like we did before. Cut them into little cubes. And continue with the rest of them. Alright, my beets are all cubed. Now I have two choices. I can either put salt and pepper in here and some butter and microwave it, or I can turn them into pickled beets. And with pickled beets, you put in 2 tablespoons of water, a tablespoon of sugar, okay, a tablespoon, apple cider vinegar is best, but if you don't have that on hand, white vinegar will work. One tablespoon. Okay. And a half of a teaspoon of salt. Alright, now we will cover that and cook it in 3 minutes, and then give it a stir and cook it for another minute. And then we'll test it for, see if it's done. Okay, this is what the roasted beets look like when they're done. We're going to leave them cool a little bit. We'll stick them in the freezer and leave them freeze, and then we'll put them in the freezer bags and do the vacuum seal on them. And like I said, they'll be good for 6 months to a year. Our third method is the boiling water. And just simply, when the boil water comes to boil, just simply drop your beets in. This is where you leave the roots on and where you leave the tops on, because this is the one, as you already see the water turning red, this is what they can bleed. And we'll leave them cook for almost an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, this size. The smaller ones can get done in a half hour, but this is going to take a good hour. So, that's 3 of the ways to do it. The 4th way is just to cut up the beet when it's raw, and you don't need to blanch them if you cut them real small, because just the process of cutting them along will keep the enzymes from continuing to grow and deteriorate. So we'll be back in an hour and check these beets that are in the boiler, and in 3 minutes we'll check the microwavable ones. Okay, this is what the pickled beets look like after they come out of the microwave. Now we have 2 options. We can either leave these cool in the fridge or leave them cool on the stove. We can freeze them once they cool down, or we can eat them. And these look so good that I'm having them for supper tonight. They're not getting in the freezer. So, those are the 4 ways that you can freeze beets. See how the water's changed on the boiling beets? This water would be as red as that, how we cut the tops off and the bottoms off. So this is why you don't do that. And as you see, my hands are still a little red, but a good soaking with water and soap and water took care of that. So we'll go to the next step on these and be back then. Okay, this is what your boiled beets look like after they've been in the freezer. So we'll put those into individual freezer bags and vacuum seal them and put them in the freezer for this winter. Okay, once you have your roasted beets cooled and frozen, place them in a microwave, place them in a freezer bag, and I use a vacuum sealer. And if you notice, I label it roasted beets 30 minutes at 350 degrees, 20 minutes at 350 degrees, or 5 minutes in the microwave. And then I'll put these up in the freezer. Also put the date that you process these on the bag. I'm going to sit here and rest for just a little bit. The beets are all done. The beet greens are all in the freezer also. Now all I got to do is take this compost out to the bin, put it in the bin. It's basically the skins, the stems, and the leaves that I did not use. And it looks like a big pile, but it's really light and fluffy. If I pushed it down, it would be way lower. But I'm going to throw that in the compost bin. And then most important, don't forget to reseed. Now, 2 weeks ago we used up all the radishes. Last week we used up all the turnips. And this week we used up the beets. So I had them planted beets, radishes, and turnips. And so this next time I'm going to plant turnips, beets, and radish. That way they're in a different row and not in the same area that they were before. And we can plant all 3 of those in July and for the fall garden, which would be ready in September, around September time, September, October. So that is what we're doing next. So hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel, it doesn't cost anything. Hit the bell icon, it tells you when I'm going to be on next. And remember, dream big and follow that dream. Bye.